I'm Lexi Davis, a love embodiment coach who helps people create a love that feels like home, and I'm here to bring more romance and playfulness into the world. I'm also an international retreat host, vibe curator, and human connector. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this podcast where I invite guests from around the world to sprinkle their wisdom and expand your perspective so you can create the deepest love you possibly can reach in this lifetime. I also want you to live the most joyous life, whatever that looks like to you, and I hope that this slice of the internet brings you lots of smiles and helps you keep your heart open. Thank you for choosing Heart Snuggles to be in your ears each week, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Welcome, Heart Snugglers. So excited to have another morning with you guys. I have a beautiful guest and I'm so excited to share with you today. And we're going to dive into all things relationships, and he's a men's coach. So excited to share some wisdom with you guys. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Well, hello. And my name is Max Trombly. I am a men's work facilitator, men's coach. I also coach men and women in relationship and in life itself. I've been working with men for about a decade. I've had men's circles, men's programs. I've worked in other people's programs as a facilitator. So, I think the easiest way to describe me is I am a man who is after empowering people to live out their best lives and really achieve those desires and dreams. And so that's what I do. And I love it.
So beautiful. Thank you for the work you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the first question of the podcast is, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
The last random act of kindness that I did out in the world?
Someone did for you.
Oh, that someone did for me. Well, the biggest one that is like the most alive for me is just my wife always gives me grace. Not always, but often will give me grace when I'm having a hard time. And by hard time, like, I'm building businesses. I'm very involved in holding people and holding space. And sometimes I'm not on my top game and I'm just like, oh, life is hard. And the deepest and most profound act of kindness is just my wife's ability to just lean into grace and just be like, it's okay. It's okay, baby. We're going to be fine. And, it's interesting. Like when you first asked that question, I was thinking externally outside of my own life. But then I really thought, well, when do I feel the most kindness? And it's when, honestly, my wonderful wife is just like, you're doing great. I love you. We're going to be fine. So
what a gift grace is, truly.
Yeah, truly.
By it softening, and yeah, that's amazing. Love that. Love that you have such a beautiful dynamic, and excited to go into that in a little bit later. But first, let's just share, how did you get into this men's work?
Yeah, that's a really interesting story. So in 2014, I was a previous marriage, and we were dealing with some relationship dynamic stuff. And so I went to see a therapist and asked how I work with it. And, what she suggested is that I get really clear on what is true in my present moment at any moment. And the thing that she suggested is that I read The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle's book. And so as I read that book, I was like, this is mind blowing. I had no idea that we could actually consider that we are not our thoughts and that we are just a human having a human experience. And that was the single piece that blew my mind open to another way of living, another way of being. And I immediately was like, I need to share this with men. And I had no idea that men's work was a thing. I had no idea that there were men's work circles across the country. I literally was naive. And I asked like 7 friends that I knew. I was in Central Virginia at the time. I was like, do you guys want to start a men's group and just talk about life topics? And so we just started getting together, and I would cook dinner and we would just have conversations and things would come up. And so it was a sloppy men's circle, but man, it was great. So that was about 2015. I guess I started that. And then gradually what happened is I realized like, wow, this is actually really important. And, the Me Too movement was really happening at that time. And I was really like, listening, and I was feeling like, what is it that women want from men? What do they need from men? What is this call that men can rise toward? And that inspired me even more. And eventually what happened, I got divorced and I continued to hold men's circles and men's spaces. And interestingly, when I met my wife in 2018, I said, I do this men's work stuff I've been doing for a while. And she was like, oh, do you know of John Wineland and David Data? And I was like, I have no idea who those people are. So I looked them up, and, she sent me like reel after reel for like 6 months. And eventually I was like, all right, I'm just going to sign up. And so I joined one of John's programs, and that really just exploded everything for me, because I felt what a true men's program or, men's work program could do for me. And I saw what it was doing for other men. And so I leaned in, I began assisting, and I lead the men's program. I'm one of the lead trainers in the leads program for John's work. And then I have my own circles in the American Southeast. I'm down in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I have an online offering as well. And so I think, that was the quickest way I could go from, I started it around a fire or my kitchen table in Central Virginia, and now it's my profession and it's what I do for a living. And that's, I couldn't be happier. So.
What a beautiful journey. And just like really curious, like what invited you like to go into when she was sending you those things instead of it being like in a resistance, what invited you to actually say yes to that?
I think I was curious what she was interested in. I was curious, my wife's name is Kelly, and Kelly and I had both been in 10-year relationships and marriages before we met. And we were both coming to this new space, really wanting to create a higher quality relationship, a deeper dynamic, deeper intimacy, love, connection. And so I was paying attention to the things that she was feeling and what she was interested in. And my wife loves to send me things on Instagram, so I don't always see them all. I try to, but it's like 5 reels a day sometimes. And I love her. And that's the feminine energy, just being like, look at this stuff I love. It's like mountain lions. It's like consciousness talk, Abraham Hicks. And then it's like, more mountain lions. And basically, I think the thing that what happened was I was doing the work and I was reading at this point about, men and, what men need to do to shift into a more conscious way of being. And then, John's teachings were coming in my inbox. And at some point, I just really was curious. I was like, well, what is this guy doing? And, what is he saying? And it really resonated with my path and what I was looking to create in my life. And so I just started paying more attention. So, I think it really comes down to, I realized I was aligned with this teacher that she was sending me, and I just started paying attention and watching his, transmission online.
So beautiful. Yeah, he's amazing. When I first found him, I was like, whoa, this man.
Totally different level. Yeah. It's I think the thing that people don't realize about a really good men's work facilitator can help you understand that there's a different way of being and there is a different possibility with life. Mm-hmm. And so they're not just trying to help you in your experience of life. A good men's work facilitator will bring your experience of life into the light so you can see, is this the life I want to be living? And then give you tools to transform toward the life that you really desire. And that transitioning from the unconscious to the conscious and cultivating a conscious way of being, that is where real transformation occurs. And John's a master of it. He's really incredible. And so, I've been working with him for, I think, 5 or 6 years at this point. And it's really, he's a gift. It's good. He's great.
So good. And something that just came to mind was thinking, some guy friends have told me, well, I have my bros, I have my guys that I talk to. So why would I join a men's circle?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a guy, Napoleon Hill, who wrote a book in like the 1930s, Think and Grow Rich. And it's really about business, and it's about cultivating a lot of success in business. And one of the things he talks about surrounding yourself with other people who are in the place you want to go, that are doing, exceptionally well in the thing you're trying to do. And, we all have our friends, but our friends that we have, especially out of high school or college, they're all in the same energetic frequency, and they're all doing the same kind of stuff with their life. And now, if you ever have a moment of clarity where you're like, there's something I want in my life, are your friends living that? And can they help carry you toward it? Right. And so it's good to have friends. It's really important, in fact. And if you really want to change your life, surround yourself with a number of men who are committed to changing their lives, and watch how quickly your life begins to shift and change.
I just got full body chills. It's so true. It's what I've done in my life too. And it's like, that's it. Like, you have to have people that are already a few steps ahead of you instead of.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go back into the relationships and talk about the power of being in a union and why it's so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So here's the thing. I love relationship. I've always been in relationships, throughout high school, college, the time after that. And, I got married. And the thing that I love about relationship is that I love how being in a relationship feels like home to me, or it can. And it often does at the beginning of a relationship, and that might shift later. But this idea that, like, when I have my partner, I've got what I need. My home is secure. I've got my kingdom. And from there, I can do whatever I need to do in the world. And I don't have to worry about love. I've got it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so, what I would say, the biggest gift of being in a relationship, especially the relationship I have now with my wife, is that I have all my needs met. I can meet my own needs, my personal needs, but my relational needs, I am just so beautifully held in the experience of love by my wife. It gives me a place to bring my love energy, bring my sensuality, bring all of that. And so, it's interesting, before the podcast, you were talking about men that are afraid to get into a relationship, or they're sort of resisting commitment. The thing that when I talk to men like that, what they always say is like, I don't want to lose the thing I've built. And it's like, man, I wish that men could understand that I feel more free in my life than I've ever felt, because I don't need to chase anything. I have everything. You know what I mean? Like, I have the things that we spend most of our life chasing after. And if you can build an incredible, deep, loving relationship that is just juicy and exciting and fun, I mean, that checks like the top 6 boxes of most men's desires and needs. And then what I'm left with is I'm left with the space to create what I want in the world, and do so from an empowered place.
So beautiful. And I fully agree. And the thinking of, your freedoms be taken away from relationship is, it's the opposite. And so I love that you
Yeah.
said that. And I'm curious of, how do you help them like realize this? They're like, oh, I don't have time, or like things like this because I'm so focused on my work. Or, oh, this is what I want to say. Thinking they need to be X, Y, Z, have this amount of money, this amount of success, this amount of like stability in their business before they.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I say is, how well is that working for you? That belief, like, do you feel like you've got what you want in love? And mostly it's no. All these beliefs that we have are just, they're fears and contractions, and they're just energetic things that have us say, I don't know, like, and the key piece here is that exploring the reasons behind the contractions or the resistance, and recognizing that it's actually not true, is pretty easy to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just break them down. Like, if I'm working with a man one-on-one in coaching, I'll just be like, okay, let's go through the reasons why you're not wanting to commit. And then we'll just look at each one of those and what the true impact of commitment would be on those things. And usually there's not much of an impact at all.
So I love it. It really is that simple. It's like,
yeah, it's clarity, right? And so, like, that's one of the most important things we can do as leaders and coaches and people that lead other people, is help them have clarity in their life so that they can see what is actually true. Confusion comes from emotional confusion, like beliefs that we hold, unfelt feelings, like shadows. We have so much stuff that confuses our field and confuses our awareness. And so helping people come into clarity, like, no, this is what's true, is the way that we can free ourselves from, confusion and resistance, if you will.
Yes, it's the best feeling too, because confusion just takes up so much of your mental space.
Oh,
And
totally.
but I also think that like men have a hard time, well, anyone really has a hard time differentiating between the fear and the intuition. Like, oh, my intuition is telling me it's a no with this person for commitment, or is it the fear?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So, I practice embodiment work and I teach embodiment work. And the thing about intuition is that intuition is internal and low wisdom. It's low in the body. Fears are heady, they spiral, they're chaotic energy. And so, I lead a practice, or I have led a practice on how to cultivate more intuitive wisdom. And the first stage is coming into becoming a blank vessel, like a clean vessel. So breathing deeply, calming your nervous system, holding your thoughts at bay or giving them grace, and just saying like, thank you, coming into a cleanliness, an embodied cleanliness. And then from there, feeling out to the wider world. It's like the Abraham Hicks philosophy, like all the information is just right there. It's right there and you can just ask it and it's there. Well, that's kind of the intuitive uplink to consciousness that's beyond us. So in order to access that, you have to get out of your human experience and come into a wider experience of what's true. And really, it's not that simple. It takes kind of practice. Like when I do these practices, this could be an hour-long practice. And the first 20 minutes are just an embodiment piece, like breathing, feeling the floor, feeling your body, cleansing your body of tension. So checking if you have tension in your face, in your eyes, in your ears, your mouth, your jaw, like really going through the whole body and just releasing all of the stuff that we're holding in this human form. And then from there, feeling out, feeling wide. It starts to get pretty esoteric pretty quickly, but I think I believe intuition is connected to the divine and connected to consciousness, and it's beyond our human experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I love that you broke it down like that, because now I'm sure you had the same experience. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between fear and intuition most of the time when you're connected to your body and you understand your body. So I think that's such a like it is the ultimate gift to have that relationship with
Totally.
your body. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'll expand on that. Why it's so beautiful to have this awareness and this gift is I'm not without fear. I have fears. Fears come up. I'm a human. And so I have these human experiences, but I have tools to work with them. So before I had embodied tools, before I had meditation, I was just at the effect of my fears and I had no idea that they were controlling my thoughts and beliefs. But now I can notice, wow, I'm feeling super anxious. I'm feeling super tight, or like I'm having a lot of fear come up. I can do my practice. I can get on my meditation cushion. I can feel through it. If there's emotions that have to move, I can move them, by feeling through them. But then I can get back to, conscious. Here I am. I'm here. I'm a man having an experience of fear. I'm going to be okay. I'm nourishing myself. And now where do what's true from here?
Mm-hmm. I love that. And this brings me on the topic of like, this is a relationship with your inner feminine because being in touch with your emotion, your emotional body. And what has that journey been like? Because obviously our society tells men not to feel and to just keep pushing through and,
Pack it down. Yeah. Don't feel it. Yeah. It's been incredible. I mean, the journey of becoming a more fully expressed human is how I would describe it. And, the first thing I think for a lot of men, when they go through an awakening path, the first thing that happens is they start to feel their emotions. And so there's sort of the new age conscious guy trap, which is like now you're feeling everything and you're in your flow state and it's like, oh, life and it's amazing. And that's great. But the thing is, really, we're just wildly in the experience of life, which is sort of more of the feminine. And I talk to a lot of women and what they're looking for is like, where are the men that are grounded, that have conscious awareness and that are capable of leadership? And it's like, well, stage 2, after you learn how to feel your feelings, is develop your masculine capacity. And so consciousness practices, awarenesses practices, learning how to breathe, to be with your own internal emotional and mind body experience and hold yourself in it. I mean, that's really, I guess, the process is that you have to go through this. I mean, you take a conventional man and he has no sense of what emotions are, can't really feel, even though he is feeling them, he's not aware that he's feeling them. So you bring the man into his awareness of his emotions. And so he starts to feel his emotions. And then you teach how to come into conscious awareness and hold himself in the emotions. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of an expanding from closed and contracted into the wider, every person has the masculine and feminine. It's a whole spectrum of, beingness. And so you're expanding a person's capacity to express and feel both sides of that spectrum.
So beautiful and so needed. And that also allows for a man to hold such beautiful space for the feminine, but how can you hold space without enabling? How can a man hold space without enabling?
Yeah, what do you mean by enabling? Like, what would I be enabling if I'm holding space?
Maybe like princess energy or like entitlement or more of a demanding kind of, or like just being like projecting the emotions instead of expressing the emotions.
Yeah, so like reacting with them, like if the like reacting versus responding, right?
Yes.
Well, so there's two things. So one, we are human beings, and sometimes we just have to express some emotions. Sometimes we just have to let it all out. That's just real. Like, if we're not, none of us are. I mean, some people are really good at just practicing and just moving this stuff on the daily, but that's not my experience. I have 2 young kids, so like things are coming up and going wild all the time. I think the thing is, if my wife is having an emotional experience, part of it is just letting the energy run and doing my best to just be with it without contracting or trying to make it wrong or ending it, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is calling my partner into a deeper truth. Like, so what do you believe because of this? What are you making this mean? So we start to get deeper in the, what is this about? And like, I think the core piece, I mean, I wouldn't be a stand for enabling entitlement or, princess energy. I'm just not in that phase of my life. That's really interesting. It's a good question because I really look at leadership from the place I'm a father. I have a wife. So we just don't have that. My wife really she's like a really good intuitive and she's got really good mother energy and queen energy. She's a proud woman and a solid woman. So we don't have a lot of entitlement, but I think, honestly, the cure for entitlement is being coached by someone outside of your relationship so they can shine a light on, like this is entitlement, because entitlement's a pretty nasty behavior inside a relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Destructive for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it can be destructive. Yeah, it's because it's so selfish. And it's not about the union, it's not about the partnership, it's not about the divine potential within relationship. It's about me, my needs, my wants, what I expect I am just like gonna receive in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is I fell into that a little bit because like there's this toxic movement of I deserve this in relationships. I'm a queen, like
Yeah,
blah blah. You
yeah.
know, there's a big movement, especially on TikTok, and it's just like, wait. I was like, wait, hold on, that's not human. That's not okay. And I had to catch myself, but I see it in a lot of, not a lot, but like thinking you're a high value woman, but really
Yeah.
it's not.
Incapable of showing up as a high value woman though, right? That's
Yeah.
the issue. So what it is, entitlement really is I deserve everything, I believe I'm worth everything, but not capable of showing up to create everything,
Mhm.
right? So love is a creative endeavor. It's something we co-create together. If you come with I am owed everything, but you're not willing to show up as love and participate as love and bring the gifts of love, nourishment and grace and compassion, then it's just super self-centered. And ultimately it's just going to that's a relational habit that's going to result in a lot of terrible relationships, and I feel bad for anyone that experiences that, but you're right that it is a trap. It's like the red pill guys, like that's what it is on the men, like these men that are just like women, like I can't find a relationship because women, they like, it's gross energy, and it's because there's no self-responsibility and there's no wider awareness of other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I so agree that relationships is this union, and when any gender is blaming the other gender, it's like, all righty here, let's step back.
Yeah.
And there's influences like Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a wild one right now because he's so like he's online and there's a lot of energy at him. And I think the thing that people respond to, men in particular, is that he's sort of a voice for men that sort of it like validates the anger and frustration that men have.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. I walk the path of love, kindness, and creation. I believe that in life, if we are softer and, strong spine, but soft heart, I believe that we create more of what we love and what we, want. And, the thing I would ask a listener, if there's a man that's listening to this and he's a big Andrew Tate fan, is that the life you want to live? Do you want to live a life where you're in and out of prison and you don't have a relationship and you're literally spending all your time just with your brother in this house, like working out? Like, his life doesn't look that good to me. He might be wealthy, but that doesn't matter. Wealth is nothing if you don't have love.
I just got chills when you said that. I love that. It's so true. And yeah, I think he's kind of the like very egoic shadow side of men, but like you said,
Yeah.
I love that he puts a voice to something. And this is something that's really important too, is men are allowed to have anger. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
important
totally.
for you to have anger. And so what is your like a healthy way men can channel their anger so they don't have to suppress it?
Yeah, there's two things that I want to speak to because actually there's something I want to touch on about what we were just talking about. So in a big way, men are under attack. And, we can look at all the ways that men have privilege, but men are also like the highest suicide rate, addiction rate, imprisonment rate. Like masculinity is largely just being ravaged by pop culture and by, it's not so much like the healthy side of feminism, but the feminism, like it's really anger expressed as feminism is really like this toxic energy at men. And so men feel belittled, disempowered. In many cases, there's emotional violence at them within relationships. If women are taking, the anger of the feminine and blasting it at their partners, like men are really being harmed in this kind of cultural dynamic that we have. And it's from that place that men have so much rage and anger. And this goes back to the Andrew Tate thing. Why they're attracted to someone like Andrew Tate is because he's a stand for basically like a wild, like, fuck the world. Like, we matter, you matter. Like we can get strong, we can live powerfully, we can be like rich. And, without even going into who he is and what his life is, like, I don't really care. But the point is, what he's speaking to is the pain that men feel around their disempowerment, which often starts with the mother, disempowering mothers, toxic mothering, and then ends up recreating in relationship. So that's the first thing. Your second question was, how do men express rage? So this is the whole thing about men's work and men's circles. We create sacred space for men to feel into the deepest, darkest, and like most violent of their rage safely. And the reason you want to do that is because when you go through life and you have an experience that happens to you where rage would be the appropriate response, but you contract it and you contract around it in your body, you're now living with it in your body and it's affecting your entire life. And so the whole thing, feeling through your emotions so that you are free and clean as a vessel of, liberated human spirit. In order to get there, the big thing is fleshing out these big emotions. And so it's not a forever process. I mean, there's two things. When I take a new man through men's work, the first thing is let's get the biggest emotional withholds and just move them through the body. So like anything that was like a really big, like traumas or just really big things that happened in life, whether it's anger, sadness, grief, anguish, any of those, move them fully through the body, fully express them. And we'll have like 5 or 6 men hold one man and just have him go all the way in. And when he touches that, the full expression of rage, what usually happens is that he'll then break down into sadness and grief. And I'm like getting a tear thinking about it, because when men feel their rage for the first time, they're breaking through a lifetime of pain, of withheld emotions, of just, it's hard to hold that. And I have the privilege, I've worked with something like 300 men over the past 5 years, and I have the privilege of witnessing and holding space for men coming into the first taste of freedom.
Oof.
Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I didn't realize it was going to hit me so hard, but really this is the core. This is why I do the work, mm-hmm. because we can free men from the burden and we can free them from the pain, and it's working. It's like, I'm seeing it, year after year.
Yeah. So, I love it.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't expect that. This is tender stuff. We're talking about rage, but what's underneath rage is like heartbreak. Mm-hmm. Like I think the first thing that I'm just thinking about my own men's work process a second ago, and I was just thinking, like, what was the first thing I processed? And my mom passed away when I was 16, and she had cancer, and I had done a lot of work around the grief, but I never really touched, the rage of being alone, of being like a 16-year-old boy that was like alone without a mom, and my dad kind of dropped in his own grief. He was in his own space, and so I felt really dropped as a kid, and I always kind of held that with compassion, but I never felt the reality that mm-hmm. like fuck you world. Yeah. Like that anger. And I remember when I was able to break through that opened up the potential to feel through deeper parts of the grief that I still had in my body, like 20 years after my mom's death. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there are other things too. There's smaller things that come up in life that we process in smaller ways. So if I have anger in my body these days, I don't have to go into a full, like 5 men holding me back and fully expressing it. Once you've done those practices like 7, 8 times, you kind of get the biggest withheld emotions kind of get flushed out. But in my day-to-day life, sometimes I get frustrated, I get angry, or, I have an 8-year-old son, and he can be a handful sometimes, and I can get really frustrated. And so like the other day, my wife was just reminding me, she's like, shake your body. And then 10 minutes later, she's like, did you do it? Shake your body. Because shaking, just shaking vigorously for like 10 minutes to some really like uplifting drums, it's how we can move the energy, mm-hmm. The smaller versions of it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. Well, first off, just thank you so much for opening your heart and sharing that. And I think it is so beautiful. And it doesn't matter how many years it's been, the body keeps score. You've heard
exactly.
the book, but just like on a basic, just trauma level, like trauma is just an unfelt emotion. And even if you think you feel it, like I have my biggest wound is abandonment. My mom left when I was 5.
Totally.
So I'm like,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck this. Like I've felt it so many times, but I haven't actually fully felt it. Like I've dealt with it through the mind and not the body. And so there's a big difference. And so it makes sense that you still had something you needed to feel.
I had no idea. And I mean, actually, you just used a really great example. So like you might have processed it in your mind. You might have even felt a little bit of sadness or grief in your body. But imagine in an embodied practice, you're standing in front of another woman who becomes the surrogate of your mother. And you get to say and express the full expression of your rage at that person. And then, if you design a practice like this really well, and then she can say the things that you needed to hear from her, like that is a crazy deep practice that you can create to fully heal this piece,
Yeah. Oh.
Heartbreaking work too. It's hard. It's really hard to do. But these are the practices we do with men. We'll have men hold like the surrogate of the father, and the man gets to like express to that guy like what I needed to hear from my father. And then, the father will basically say it, and the man gets to feel fully what it feels like to be free of never having been told, like, I'm proud of you. Like, you're doing great. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's like, oh.
Yeah, it's amazing. Wow. I talk about this work, but I rarely bring to my consciousness like like I'm visualizing some of the practices that I've done with men, and I'm like seeing certain men as I'm vocalizing them to you. And I'm just like, I mean, you can just see how emotional it's making me. And it's just because it's like freedom, it's just freedom.
I was about to say, like I mean, I lead retreats too, and seeing that, watching that transformation
Right.
in someone, it is life changing. Like their lives literally change, and to be able to see, like, watch someone actually taste a deeper level of freedom, because people think they're free, people, think they know it all, but like you haven't. This is what I see so commonly. It's like, oh, I have the best, but it's because they've never experienced better. So
Yeah, exactly.
they're at their glass ceiling or whatever, but there's so much more that people can experience, and so being a oracle of that is such a gift.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Being an oracle, like, I often say women are the oracle and men are like I forget what I say about men, but just like the model, the conscious model of it. You're right. That's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that there's better. They don't realize that there's a potential. And so it's funny when you talk to a large group of people about how they came into this work, it's like everyone knows that moment. They know the book they read, they know the podcast that they heard, or like the friend that said, hey, you should try this thing. And it's amazing, because the thing that awakens us to our own blindness about what's possible in life, it's what changes our life, and it really it gives us the opportunity to have a deeper, more beautiful and expansive experience of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think so many people are not even experiencing life to even nearly the fullest amount. And
Yeah.
it makes me sad. Like my business is Allowed to Enjoy, and I just really help people like tap into more of their joy and more of their ability to feel alive, and which is
Yeah.
something that we only get like little tastes of, but this can be a more of a natural state. So, and I think, go ahead.
Yeah. I love that your business is about joy. I mean, joy is so overlooked. I sit with men all the time, and the number of men that actually can access like laughter and joy is very small. And I think there's something about when boys reach a certain age, their play and their joyfulness is kind of castrated, because it's like, you need to behave like a different way. You can't do that. You can't act like that. Because the thing is, boys and the way they express joy tends to be a very physical expression, like jumping off the couches and like throwing things and like making messes. And it's an easy thing to want to control. Like I'm always rolling my eyes like, oh my God, my house is a mess. We cleaned it 3 hours ago. Like, what is going on? So as a parent, I can actually really acutely see how easy it would be to castrate my son's joy. And so I believe that with men, one of the big things is that as kids, our joy is shamed. And then as we grow up, we just don't have places to play. There's no play. As you get to be an older adult, like sports are our play. And it's so competitive that it's more hard and edgy. Like it's less like play and ease and joy. So on my own path of self-discovery, the biggest recognition that I had is that I had not had joy in my life for over 20 years, partly my mom's death, and she was sick before she died. So like I started to lose joy in my probably between 10 and 13. And in 2017, I was in this moment where I just touched true liberated joy for the first time in my life. And I was like, what is this experience? I had some self-awareness at that point. And I just realized, like, I'm having fun.
Do you want to be a part of an extraordinary trip of a lifetime where you'll be surrounded by open-minded, fun, and inspiring humans from around the world? You'll be in a space that is so safe you can express all of you, not have to hide or hold back the tears or the weird accents you love to do. The amount of unconditional love you will feel will make you feel unstoppable. You'll be in a tropical paradise surrounded by beauty in the Balinese jungle. Every day you'll eat delicious, healthy meals cooked by a local chef, and instead of cleaning up after, you'll head to the glass sauna and relax. You love growing and are ready to leap into the unknown and connect deeper to your spirituality. At the end of the week, you'll leave feeling like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. You'll be smiling ear to ear and feel as light as a feather. I will take care of all of your needs for a week at the all-inclusive Alive to Enjoy retreat this December 2nd through 10th. You can book a call with me, Lexi, at alivetoenjoy.com/retreats. And I swear this will be hands down the best way to end 2023. All genders are welcome, and all people who are here to make this world a better and brighter place.
Like I'm a grown adult, but I'm having like fun. I'm like playing like as if I'm a kid. And I just realized how important joy was. And ironically, when I met my wife, I asked her what she wanted in relationship, and she wanted someone that would practice relationship. She wanted someone that was open to the possibility of living life joyfully and with play and fun. And I forget what she said. She was like, I want a partner who's funny. And I remember having the response, like, I don't know any jokes. And she laughed at it and she's like, it's not about jokes. And that's hilarious. And I was just like, okay, I think I'm okay. Like, and actually, like I live sort of as a provocateur of joy and mischief, because I just think life is just too short to not play and have fun with. And so my son, it's like stupid things. Like we'll go to a restaurant and like my son and I will like peel back the straws and we'll like shoot them at each other. And like, I try to just promote, the things that most parents would be like, don't do that. I'm like, no, definitely do that.
Yeah.
Do it. Do the things. Right now it's Shark Week. And so this morning, my son was in kind of a bad mood. He was like yelling at Kelly and I on the way out we were bringing him to camp. I was bringing him to camp. And so, he was really in this like closed, like clenched mood. And I was like, Shark Week. And I'd like reach behind to his leg and like, bite his leg with like the little shark hand. And like we were in a coffee shop and I just kept sneaking up on him and I was like, Shark Week. And it's just like, he went from being angry and yelling at us to being like just so playful and laughing and joyful by the time I brought him to camp. And so joy as practice can open the world. It can open your partners. It can open your children. It can open people even at the checkout counter at your grocery store. You can just be joyful. You can be happy. And it really opens the world. And it's a beautiful experience.
Immediately, like even when I'm in a mood and I'm walking down the street and someone gives me that genuine smile and I'm like,
yeah,
everything just like,
yeah, it's just like, it's the beauty of life. Life is expressed as joy. Joy is like the highest vibration of potential for the human. Happiness and joy.
Yes, I agree. And I mean, obviously all my relationship, my past lover, we had so much, he was so playful and
that's so great.
Constant. And I'm like, and then I lead these circles and I'm like asking people and they're like, I don't remember the last time I played. I don't remember the last time and I'm like, holy shit. Like this is crazy to me because
it's crazy.
It's so important. And I love just like thank you for being a father like that, truly, because your kids are just trying to figure out their emotions, they're feeling their feels, and the fact that you're able to like see that and instead of shaming them, which honestly, I don't know what to do sometimes in public watching the parenting styles that people have no shame about, like treating their kids like this. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic, but
yeah, well, I'll just say there's nothing to do. Like when you see people doing bad things, whether they're parents or their partners or they're just whatever, people in the world, people are going to do the things they do. Let it be a reminder that it's worth working toward doing better.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's one thing I'll just say, like my daughter, she's going to be 3 in a week. And all she wants is to be tickled. And it's ironic because my wife, Kelly, hates to be tickled. My daughter, she always is just like, tickle me. And I'll like tickle her. And I'm like, how can she tolerate this much tickling? But she's just like, she'll throw her head back and she's in pure laughter. And as soon as I stop, she's like, more. And I'm like, wow, she just wants to live in the experience of like pure, unrelenting laughter and joy.
That's so cute.
Yeah, she's adorable. It's cute.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to just touch a little bit more because we're starting to talk about this is how to navigate a little bit of like conflict or like you said, even just a big emotion from your kid. But I think more in partnership, like moving through the dynamic of holding.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is that in relationship, conflict is inevitable. We're human beings. We're having human experiences. We're going to bump up against each other. And that's just okay. So let's normalize conflict first, because nobody is without it. And if you're without conflict, I would argue that you probably have very little energy at all in your body, very little vitality. But all right, so navigating conflict is not easy, and it does require a degree of practice. And I mean, how it looks in my relationship is like one of us will pop off with some like energy, like unexpressed energy or whatever. And usually the first thing that happens is we're kind of just bouncing off each other. The classic fight in a relationship. It's just like we get into the like projections, right? We're projecting at each other, kind of like blasting our emotions. And usually in my relationship, the way it unfolds is like the first person to become conscious and aware that we can go deeper and have a deeper experience will be like, okay, wait, pause. There's a better way to do this. Like, what's going on with you? And there's the Imago dialogue, which is a dialogue structure for relationship conflict. And you don't have to go through a formal Imago, but the basic thing is what Imago dialogue would be, okay, tell me what you want to say. And my partner will say it even if she's charged, even if it's hard for me to receive, I just hear her. And then I say, here's what I think you're saying. I'll repeat it, which is mirroring. And then I'll say, did I get that right? And she'll say yes or no. And then I'll say, is there more? Is there anything else you want to tell me? And she'll share anything else and I'll mirror it. Did I get that right? Okay, great. I understand how you feel. That's what you say. You just say, I understand how you feel that way. You don't try to be right. Like, no, you're wrong. That's not what happened. You don't do that. You don't have to do that because your partner's experience is true, even if it's not your truth. Your partner's experience is her experience or his experience. And so the key thing is, what do you need to tell me? Here's what I heard. Is that right? That makes sense. You just validate their experience. And then from there, what do we need to do so that we feel better in this moment and over the longer term? Because what we're trying to do with conflict is get it right so that we're forming more trust and connection rather than getting it wrong and creating resentment and contempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the basic way.
No, it's beautiful. And I think that conflict is actually, it's always an invitation for deeper intimacy. And
Yeah,
when you
totally.
make it actually the ability to move and repair through conflict is like an essential part of a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And, the more attuned we are to our own nervous system, the more work we do around recognizing our nervous system and where it's at, the more we can guide ourselves in conflict also. And so, something I teach to my couples that are more lively couples is I offer them that if you're in a conflict and you need to take a pause so you can come back into within your capacity to handle the experience, that is a responsible pathway forward in the conflict. You're not ejecting from the conflict. You're caretaking yourself so you can continue to participate in the resolution of the conflict. And that is so important. So you might say, okay, hold on. I need 3 minutes to just not keep going so I can ground and so I can just kind of wash this off. All right, I'm back. Let's go. What do we need to discuss here? So that's a good way of navigating it. If you go beyond your capacity within conflict,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
caretake your own nervous system.
100% essential. We can't when we try to overdo it, that is going to result in not what you want. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're gonna overdo it because that's the other thing with emotions is we're gonna end up blasting off into beyond our capacity. So instead of continuing from that place, giving yourself some space to just self-nourish and come back into, okay, I'm capable of continuing this conversation. Let's do it. That's the key,
Mm-hmm. I agree. And that makes it to a point where something I've struggled with is bringing up things I notice to my masculine partners without so they can actually receive it.
Yeah. This is why dialogue and dialogue structure is really valuable, especially if you can get it to be a practice in your relationship. And I mean, my wife and I have been married for 5 years and we're still not perfect at this, but we try. Mm-hmm. So, good language, instead of just coming out with when you do this, it makes me feel a certain way. It's hey, I have something I need to voice and I need you to hear it. Can we create a structure where you just hear what I'm saying without responding from your emotions? Mm-hmm. And you bring the thing and they might still have an emotional experience, but if you can create this conscious structure, when this happened, it made me feel and then touch the deeper truth. And then that makes me feel afraid that I'm not going to experience love, that you're going to leave me, that, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the way. And I think, did I get that right? Is that the kind of question that you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. It's just about being an invitation first for the structure and second for the truth.
Yes. And I have, done that in the, I don't want to say correct way, but a way that resulted in him hearing me. And it was whoa, this is it, I'm not speaking from my mind, I'm speaking from my heart, and he's receiving it, and I get to be vulnerable and held and find a resolution together. And I think that's just the magic, because when we come from blaming or criticizing, men especially, but anyone in reality is going to shut down to that. And so it just doesn't feel good. And then so I think your language is extremely important and something that most of us were taught,
None of us were taught it. And definitely if you just blast emotions that have projection and blaming in them, in men, a lot of times it just provokes shame, and shame is just a complete shutdown of the human experience. It's just numb. Men go numb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's okay. That's just part of life. And so we figure out how to work with it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the keys too, is this fluidity of we're not going to get it right every time, no matter how even if you're in the work and you're still gonna have emotions. I feel like the spiritual community sometimes doesn't acknowledge the humanness of us all.
Yeah,
And
that's correct.
you already touched on it, but it's something I'm really passionate about in my work too, because we're forever just figuring it out. And every love is so unique in it's just its own, like you said, creation. It's like a blank canvas and you're creating this love together. And so finding what is best for the both of you and
Yeah.
not just saying, well, this coach said this, or I read this, and so we have to do this. It's like,
Oh
let's,
man.
yeah.
My favorite is when I'm working with couples and I work with them individually and then together. And my favorite is when I'm like, listen, do not tell your partner I said this. You just need to do this as your embodied way. And then the next call, he'll be like, so she told me that you said that I had to do this. And I'm like, oh, you guys. So I can't stop people from using my words violently against each other. I think it's just going to happen. And so be it. Whatever. I just ask them to get it right and they don't. And then we have to work with it on the next call. So, you know, and
Yeah.
that's the human experience, is that we just can't control what people do. We do our best to do it as good as we can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a guy, and this actually is a common thing with men, like, what do I need to do so that my partner stops doing XYZ, which is usually emotional expression, blah, blah, blah. And the thing that I always say is, the real question is, what do you need to do to be okay with that expression? Because the feminine will never not be the feminine. Women will never not, if they're in touch with their emotional bodies, women will never not be an expression of their truth. So men really have to learn how to just be okay with the expression of truth instead of, just trying to end it, resist it, be without it.
Yes, the like typical too much, too emotional.
Oh, such a wound for women. I'm too much.
Hmm.
I feel so bad. A lot of women hold that because their emotions could not be held. And that's not about the woman being too much. It's about men having the lack of capacity to be able to show up and hold a woman in her expression.
Hmm. Yeah, and then also, I mean, same for men, the men not feeling enough because women hold them to such high standards.
Yeah. Yeah. The masculine version would be like, I'm never going to get this right. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. Those are the things that come up that are more externalized to the relational experience.
Yeah, and so I think there just needs to be so much more. It's just a compassion from both ends and
Yeah,
awareness of working through these things.
exactly.
And that's why my work is heavily focused around self accountability and responsibility. And it's not about, oh,
Beautiful.
it's so easy to blame. Our society's really good at the red flags and like they did this, but yeah, I think that self-ownership is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know and be aware when you're getting into a relationship that there are red flags and that there are things you should look out for. That's great because you want to invest in the highest potential of love, and so you're trying to find a partner that's capable. So that's part one. But part two is, yeah, I mean, radical self-responsibility. Like, this is one of the foundational things that my wife and I do in our relationship, is when we're out of alignment with love, whoever the first person is to notice that we're out of alignment takes responsibility to create love.
Mhm.
And we have kids, and so there's periods of time where, like, for like a month or more, we're just in the slog of kids, especially like during the school year. There might be like a respiratory cold and the other one has it, and we're just under the weight of that, like, long period of time where no one's feeling good. And at some point, one of us will recognize, like, wow, we're disconnected. We are not connected in love. And it might not be some grand reentry into love, but what it might just be is, baby, I miss you. I love you. Can I rub your shoulders for a minute? Or can I just feel your hands on my body? Can you just hug me? Like, those kind of awarenesses where it's like we're out of alignment with love. And my wife's really good at this. She'll often say, like, wow, I haven't touched you in like a week. She's more attuned to that frequency, where I'm just always in like business mode, kid mode, cooking dinner, like, because I'm a man, I'm just always on my like train of thought, train of action.
Yeah.
So thank God I have a wife that's really attuned to love. It's beautiful.
Oh, I hope for more of that in this world.
Oh yeah, I do too. That's why we teach it. That's why we talk about it, because it can be true. And fortunately, my wife has a lot of this. It's in her lineage. The family she comes from this kind of like, even in the darkness of life, we can play. And so she kind of has this like uplifted spirit and this kind of spiritual way of existing. But I've had to create it. I've had to reconnect with it and learn it and learn how to re-express it. So I can say from my experience that we can come into an elevated experience of life, even if we don't have it naturally, because we come from a family that likes to joke and play.
Definitely.
You
I
know?
can attest to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not a victim to your story or circumstances or
we're not. we have the power to create the lives we desire. That is 100% true.
Beautiful. Okay, so last question is, what makes your heart snuggle?
Oh man. I mean, it goes back to that act of kindness that you asked me at the very beginning. It's the fact that my wife is devoted to me, loves me, and she's all in for me.
Mm.
And I'm all in for her. And through that, we've just created such a beautiful, cozy, imagine sitting in front of a fireplace in like the Northeast during Christmas. It's snowing outside, the fireplace is going, like it smells like cinnamon and tea and whatever. Like that's what my relationship often feels like when I'm with my wife. It just feels cozy.
Mm.
And that is really the thing that makes my heart sing, and I feel snuggled by love. But the second piece is my daughter, who's 3, is adorable and ridiculous. And sometimes she'll just come up to me and put her arms out because she just wants a hug, and she'll wrap herself, her tiny body, she'll wrap it around she's just like right here on my upper chest, her arms around my back, and she'll squeeze me. And when she squeezes me, she like really kind of shakes. And like because I do that to her, like I'll squeeze and shake her. And it's the cutest thing. It's like, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know, like a baby monkey, like at a zoo, like it's like this cute little thing hugging me. And that brings me a lot of love, a lot of warmth, a lot of joy, a lot of snuggles.
Yeah, I love that. Kids, oh my God, they just melt my heart so much. So I can
Yeah.
totally see why. I also did want to ask you, if you feel comfortable, what was the difference between the last marriage and this marriage, or what made you make that choice to?
Yeah. Yeah. In the last marriage, my first marriage, both of us were unconscious. Both of us did not have an awareness of what we were holding in terms of baggage and trauma. And a lot of that manifested at each other. We lost safety, we lost intimacy, and we spent years trying to figure it out. We tried all these different arrangements and dynamics. We opened our relationship, we became polyamorous, and nothing really worked to create safety and bring our relationship back into a place of safe and co-created. And so what really has shifted is that in my relationship that I'm in now, there are 2 people who are fiercely committed to creating love for the sake of the relationship. It's a 3rd stage thing. It's, I don't know if you're familiar with David Data, but the 3rd stage is serving from the place that opens the world. And we both serve the relationship from the place of opening the relationship to love, to God, to the divine. And that is the biggest difference. Just recognizing that it's not, I can't wait for my wife to do it. Whoever thinks of it first. Like if I'm the first person to realize we're out of alignment, back to love, back to connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that too. It's like so often we're just like, well, they need to do it first, but that never
Uh,
serves anyone.
it
So
is the worst energetic habit in relationship is like, I'm not going to do it unless she does it. I hear that all the time. And it's like, why would you do that? She's
that's
doing
not,
the same thing. You guys are never going to do the thing.
yeah.
Cut that out. Do you want love or not? Because if you want love, you can just decide now that you're going to do the right thing.
Yes.
Let's be clear. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. It's so common. Even just like as simply as so basic of sharing your feelings when you have them, especially as women. They're like, oh, he needs to say it first. I'm like, no, 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 no. Whenever you feel it, you got to name it because that is your
Yeah.
truth.
Or
Yeah.
express it through your body. Like maybe you just feel like, and you just got to shake, and like, you don't even need to make it a processing moment. You could just be the expression of whatever you're feeling.
Yes. Okay.
Actually, yeah, it's
Go
so
ahead.
great. Oh, that's it. I mean, that's all I was going to say. I think the beautiful thing is that we have all the tools available to us to learn how to become the highest potential of whatever we're doing in life, whether it's life, purpose, love. And we're living in a time where it's all available. Like this podcast, your online transmission, my online transmission, the containers and the groups. I saw that you did an immersion. There are places to go to shift and radically transform our lives. And it's up to anybody listening. It's up to you. You make the choice. The day you're ready to change your life, reach out to the person that you align with the most and say, how do I get in? What do I do? And watch, your life will transform almost overnight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I 100% agree. And once you do, you're like, okay, I need to keep this up because it's so fulfilling when you finally invest in
Oh
yourself.
yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know. It's funny. I joined a men's program, John Wineland's EMLT in 2019. And I loved it so much. I'm like 6 years in now, and I'm one of the lead trainers in it because I just love these containers of growth. And that's the container where I can still practice my edges and work through my things. And so that's the container that serves me while I lead other containers. It's on both sides of my life. I'm leading it, I'm fostering it, I'm also doing the work. And so I'm staying in this space of growth and expanding our capacity to show up as love.
Me too. Yeah, I think that's so
Yeah, I love that for you. Yeah.
yeah. So how can people work with you? What are you offering?
Yeah, so I have an online men's circle. I have an in-person men's circle down in New Orleans, Louisiana. In 2014, I'm going to be launching a number of programs geared towards men and couples.
You
I
said 2014.
That is completely incorrect. I'm looking at the clock and I'm looking at two things at once. Sorry, 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm like a time traveler, and literally it's 2011, and we're just on this weird. Yeah. Anyway, no. Well, so listen. So if people want to work with me, the easiest thing to do is find me on Instagram. My name is Max Trombly, or my website, ashiftinbeing.com. You can Google search Max Trombly, you'll find it. And the things that I am offering now are mainly geared towards men. I teach a lot through my Instagram. So all of my reels and my stories, I'm basically teaching what's coming up in, coaching containers and coaching relationships that I have. And I really just want the world to understand these things and know these practices. And so if people feel inclined to work with me or we're easy to find. We're just out there. We're out here doing it,
We're here to serve you when you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. I am right here. Easy to find.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You made it to the end of the episode, so now it's time for our snuggly heart breath of the day. Place a hand or both hands, if it's safe to do so, over your heart and take a big breath into your heart center. Open your mouth and let it go. I'm so grateful to have shared this time with you. If you enjoyed this convo, please share with your besties and your fam. And if you're a visual person like me, fly over to YouTube and watch the video. If you want to do a random act of kindness today, please leave a 5-star review so more people in the world can get their heart snuggled. You're helping tremendously when you do this, so thank you so much. And as a gift for doing so, I'll give you my Soften Your Heart Medi that feels like an exhale and a hug from within. When you leave a review and email me the screenshot to heartsnuggles@alivetoenjoy.com, you can also find the email in the show notes and you'll get the free meditation. Sending you the warmest, comfiest hug and lots of unexpected blessings your way. Remember that every single person just wants to be loved. So how can you be loved today?